या समय एक हरिदास जी दीन नीको ठहराए कर, कया बाल मुकुंद जी पधराओ तुम सेवो अपने घर. We've been talking about the lives and teachings of Satguru Shree Devchandraji and Mahamati Sri Prananath ji, the founders of Sri Krishna Pranami Dharma, the founders of a new sect, Nijananda sect, the individuals, the divine beings with whom the transcendent understanding of Tartam came, the arrival of awakened consciousness which led to the eventual establishment of Sri Krishna Pranami Dharma happened. So we are talking about their lives, and once again I would like to offer my appreciation for your participation and active engagement in this discourse. The questions and the inquiries that you have on the topics of our discussions suggest that you are really paying attention to the details. The inquiries about life and spirituality, about God, about our existence, take us a long way in self-realization, take us a long way in God realization, in our awakening from this cosmic illusion that we call Maya. So it's happening, it's going in a right direction. We can have numerous examples of religious scholars, saints, and sages who attained the divine understanding due to such inquiries. Gautama Buddha, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Paramhamsa Ramakrishna, Kabir, Surdas, Vallabhacharya are some of those divine beings, to name a few, whose pursuits led to a divine understanding. In Abrahamic religious traditions, we can name Moses, Abraham, Jesus, Prophet Muhammad, among other religious personalities, religious leaders, making such inquiries about life and God and existence that led them to offer so much to humanity as of today. So thank you so much for your inquiries. Thank you so much for your active engagement. Thank you so much for your questions. Keep sending those questions to us and we'll try to respond. On yesterday's discourse, we talked about Devchandraji's selfless service to Haridasi, his spiritual teacher, his Guruji. After wandering for 4 years in Kutch, reaching out to different religious scholars of different sects, different religious traditions, he finally arrives to the place of Haridasi. And he finds Haridasi truly devotional, is instantly impressed by the true bhakti, true devotion to Lord Sri Krishna that Haridasi performs. Now, the lesson that the followers of Satguru and Prananath to reflect on is our bhakti and devotion to Aksharat and Sri Krishna. Because the state of our understanding is absolutely different than that was of Haridasi, we need to self-reflect whether our devotion comes even closer to that of Haridasi. Keep in mind, he was not aware of the realities of Sri Krishna that we are. We are enlightened with the awakened consciousness, the Jagrit Buddhi. We know the reason behind creation. We are familiar with our eternal relationship with the Lord Supreme. And we are constantly reminded of our promises to Sri Raji Maharaj before we came to this world to witness suffering. The questions we need to ask ourselves is whether we have the longing to be with the Lord, that longing that Haridasi displayed. Whether we have time to glorify Him, and whether we realize His presence in our lives. Are we serving Him wholeheartedly, with mind, words and deeds. Manasa Vacha Karmana. Haridasi served Bal Mukundaji and Banke Bihari according to the weather. Are we doing the same? Are we serving Sri Raji Maharaj as if he is right in front of us? As Mahamati says, Sakshatani Seva Kije Rude Rakhe Jo Maram. Worship as Raji is right in front of you, says Mahamati Prananath, with true devotion, with true faith. Are we doing that? That is something to self-reflect on. That is something to think about. Haridasi does not know anything about Sri Krishna and the realities of him. The three distinct leelas, the three distinct features, the three distinct forms of Sri Krishna is something he is utterly unfamiliar with. We know it all, yet is our devotion at par with that of Haridasi? That is the question we got to ask ourselves. Haridasi was truly happy to have someone like Devchandraji as his disciple. One day, when Haridasi was busy on his discourse, 4 men came to the discourse carrying a young boy in a makeshift beard. They were asking for Haridasi's help because the boy was stung by a venomous scorpion. The boy was unconscious when they brought him to Haridasi. They asked for his help, knowing that he could cure the scorpion bite with the divine mantra he had, because they had heard about it. They all prostrated to him, glorified his skill and power, and asked for his grace. Haridasi readily accepted that. He recited the mantra that he knew, twisted his mustache once. The boy started moving a bit. He was unconscious before. He continued to recite the mantra and twisted his mustache one more time, and again the third time, and the boy was all awake. He could stand on his one. He smiled and bowed his head, touching the feet of Haridasi for saving his life. Everyone sang the glory of Haridasi when they saw that Haridasi treated a boy who was about to die without his help. When everyone turned back, when everyone returned to their places, Haridasi softly asked Devchandraji if he would like to receive that mantra, with which he could save lives of individuals, hundreds of individuals. And you know what Devchandraji said? He said he respectfully declined that offer. तब श्री देवचंद्र ने कहा, हरिदासी सुनो तुम, हमको मंत्र जो तुम दियो सो हृदय राखे हम. सो यह मंत्र कैसा है जो लाख बिच्छू का दुख, सो जन्म मरण को छुड़ाए के देवेश. Haridasi, when offered to give that mantra to Devchandraji, Devchandraji said, you have already given me a mantra of Lord Sri Krishna, and I have embraced that wholeheartedly. And the mantra that you have given me can treat the bites of hundreds of millions of scorpion bites. The mantra that you are giving me, the mantra that you have given me, Bhajamana Sri Vrindavana Kunja Bihari Nitya Vilas, it is going to save people from frequent reincarnations into this world and experience suffering again and again and again. So I do not want to contaminate my heart with another mantra that could save few lives, because the mantra that you have given me is way more powerful, way more divine than this one. Haridasi was so pleased with the response of Devchandraji. How intuitive, how sagacious was Devchandraji. Haridasi was once again impressed with the wisdom of Devchandraji. While the world runs after magic and the magical powers of religious leaders and saints and the yogis, Mahamati Prananath absolutely undermines its glory because it hinders one's spiritual path. Frankly speaking, let me give you an example of it. It is not the resurrection of Jesus that Christians glorify that should matter so much. What should matter rather is his divine teachings and following through his teachings that would lead us to the abode of Holy Father. It is not, I would say, it is not a right thing to do in glorifying Prophet Muhammad for how he got the revelations from Lord Supreme, but what he brought to humanity, the value of obedience and submission to him, the value of charity, the value of alms. We should not glorify the yogis for their spiritual powers, because one day they would go, they would perish, and all those magics and magical powers would go with them. What we should imitate is their relentless penance and strong will in achieving what they wanted. It is the understanding, it is the knowledge of our true self. It is self-realization, it is God realization that should be given the utmost importance. Dear Sundarsaji, if you know that it is the library where you can find the books that you need, and you know the process, you can find any book necessary. But if you go to a place, let's say if you go to a restaurant, meditate for hours, and show utmost patience and wait for a book to come to you in a restaurant, that's not going to happen. So Mahamati Prananath glorifies the significance of this knowledge, this understanding, the transcendent understanding through which everything becomes simpler, everything becomes easier. It does not matter whether a saint can save a couple of lives. That is not the reason why we glorify that individual. It is for his efforts, his understandings, his humility that should be respected. Mahamati Prananath, for that matter, says, Sadhu kihera kahi karamata ye duniya titarache. The seekers of truth, the magic, the magical powers are poisonous to your spiritual growth. However, it is easy for you to run after it because it gives you power, it gives you fame, it gives you wealth. These yogic powers, these magical powers, they're curative powers. One can get name and fame and wealth. However, they can be detrimental and hindrance to God realization. Because with name and fame and wealth, we succumb to our ego, we succumb to our humility. And until we become humble and meek, we cannot receive the grace of God. So Haridasi was truly happy with what Devchandraji said. While anybody would be willingly receive such a mantra that could be helpful in saving the lives, Devchandraji said, I would rather not. All I want is answers to my questions. All I want is to know God. All I want is the insight on God. I don't want anything else. I don't want to deviate from my pursuits. Haridasi is truly, truly blessed to have a disciple like that. So one day again, when Haridasi awoke during the middle of the night, he finds out that Devchandraji make rounds of his house. He calls out and finds out that it was Devchandra. So he realizes that it is not that one day long back when he saw Devchandra making rounds of his house. He realized that he does it every day. मैं जान्या तुम एक दिन भुलकी रात को आए, ये तो नीत फिरत हो, मैं ये मेहनत सही न जाए. So Haridasi realizes that he does it every day. So he says to Devchandra, I cannot tolerate your service. I cannot tolerate what you are doing. You circumambulate my house every morning, early in the morning, 3 a.m. You do all the household chores. You clean my clothes. You prepare warm water for me to bathe. You do everything for me. I'm not worthy of your service, frankly. तुम मोशों कहा कहत हो क्या मागत हो मुझसे, हे देवचंद्र, please let me know what you want from me. मोशों तुम कह दो वह मैं दूं तुम्हें. Whatever you ask from me, I'll give it to you. Look at the gratitude of Haridasi to his disciple. It is really hard to find disciples like that today because we do not have respect. We do not have such respect to our spiritual leaders, to our spiritual masters, to our gurujis. Devchandraji was speechless. He had nothing to ask because he was already fortunate enough to hear the divine discourse on the lives of Shree Krishna, the Bhagavata discourse. What could he ask from his Guruji? Since he could not come up with anything to ask for, Haridasi himself offered Bal Mukundaji to him. तब हरिदासी ने कहा, मैं तुम्हें देऊं बाल मुकुंद, तिनकी सेवा तुम करो ज्यों पाओ आनंद. So Haridasi himself offered Bal Mukundaji to him, the idol of Bal Mukundaji. Bal Mukundaji is none but the child form of Sri Krishna. Bal Mukundaji is the child form of Sri Krishna, while Banke Bihariji is the form that played Rash, the eternal dance with the cowmaids of Braj. Bal Mukundaji and Banke Bihariji, two separate forms of Sri Krishna, one the child form and the other the youth form of Sri Krishna. Devchandraji was truly happy because God was offered to him. And Haridasi saw that on a precious day, he saw the date, and the day was set for Devchandraji to receive Bal Mukundaji's idol. But it is not a mere idol. For both Haridasi and Devchandraji, it was the God himself that he was receiving from his Guruji. So the day was set. So today is the day. Haridasi is giving Bal Mukundaji to Devchandraji. The reason being, Haridasi does not want Devchandraji to come so early to his home, circumambulate his home, do all the household chores, because he says, I cannot handle, I'm not worthy recipient of your service. So Devchandraji Haridasji wants Devchandraji to spend a little more time on his house, taking care of his parents. So if Balmukunda is there, then he would offer his prayers, he would have to do a few things here and there at home, and he would only come for the Bhagavata discourse. So he was giving Balmukundaji to him. The day that Devchandraji was to receive Balmukundaji, Haridasji went to his prayer room, and found Balmukundaji missing there. He looked for Balmukundaji here and there. Like I said earlier, he was not just an idol. He was the God himself. He asked his wife and his kids, but all of them said, no, we haven't seen God. Haridasji was truly upset because God was missing. हरिदासजी विस्मय भय सेवा बिहारी जी की कर बाल मुकुंद जी को ढूंढत पूछत पस हुए यूं कर. He was truly upset. He looked here and there. After serving Banke Bihari ji, the youth form of Sri Krishna, because he belonged to the Vaishnava tradition, the tradition that followed Sri Krishna is the Lord Supreme. Devchandraji arrived a little late that morning because he was making sure that his room was all clean. He was setting things up to receive Balmukundaji. When he arrived, he saw Haridasji a little upset. He asked the reason why such was the case. And when Devchandraji knew that Balmukundaji was gone, he took the blame upon himself. Although it had nothing to do with him, he said, "Oh Guruji, it is all my fault, because I was probably not worthy to receive the grace of God. I could not receive him, I could not find him. तुम तो हमको दे चुके वस्तु आई थी हम पास, यह हमारी भूल है जो टूटी हमारी." Devchandraji said, "You had already given Balmukundaji to me. But it is my fault. It is because I'm not worthy. Balmukundaji is no longer here," says Devchandraji. Haridasji tried to convince her, Devchandraji, that it was not his fault. "I'm not really sure where Balmukundaji is gone, but you have nothing to do with it. It's not that you are not worthy to receive the grace of Balmukundaji. No. Do not take it upon yourself, Devchandra. But today, I'm not in a mood of Bhagavata discourse, so please go home. As soon as I find Balmukundaji, I will let you know and I'll give him to you." Devchandraji left for his home. Devchandraji and Haridasji both fasted that day. They didn't eat anything because the Lord was missing from their homes. So no food was cooked on Haridasji's home that day. And at the night, when he was about to sleep, he slept on his couch. And as he was about to fall asleep, he saw the divine form of Balmukundaji standing right in front of him. "Taha aaye Balmukundaji sakshat diyo darshana, oho Prabhuji kahan gaye hate hum dhunat kalpi mana." Bolo Sri Krishna Kanhaiya Lal ki jai. So Lord Sri Krishna in his child form appears in front of Haridasji. Haridasji felt so blessed. The radiating form of Sri Krishna almost bedazzled his eyes, almost blinded him. But it was so soothing to see Lord Sri Krishna right in front of him. Haridasji asked him, "Oh Lord, I was looking for you for hours. where were you? See, Haridasi does not consider the idol and the real form of Sri Krishna much different. He says, where were you? He was actually looking for the idol. But when Lord appears in his real form, he asks the same question, where were you? You were missing from my prayers room. That is how devoted Haridasi was. Lord Sri Krishna said, I was right there. Then Haridasi said, why didn't you give me the darshana then? Why could not I have a glimpse of you? For that, Sri Krishna said, I was actually in hiding because you were giving me to Devchandra. I was going to be served by Devchandra. As such, I disappeared. Haridasi was puzzled. He was awestruck. But why? Why could you not be served by Devchandra? Sri Krishna said, सो तुमको इन स्वरूप की भई नहीं पहचान, मैं इनकी सेवा सह न सकूं, ना सह सकूं एहसान. Sri Krishna said, you are unaware of the divinity of Devchandraji. The fact of the matter is, I cannot accept his service. I cannot handle his service. I cannot handle his prayers, his favors. Dear Sundarsats, Sri Krishna did not reveal the reason why, did not reveal the divine powers of Devchandra. But we know now, Devchandra is none other than the consort of Aksharatit Sri Krishna. Devchandra has the spirit of Sundarbai, the leading soul of Paramdham, the supreme abode. And Bal Mukundaji is Golokiya Sri Krishna, who worships Lord Supreme Aksharatit Sri Krishna. We've already talked about three distinctions of Sri Krishna. One of Paramdham, the other of Goloka Dham, and the other Vishnu incarnate from Vaikuntha. So Golokiya Sri Krishna himself prays to the Lord Supreme Aksharatit Sri Krishna, and Devchandraji is none other than one of the consorts of the Lord Supreme. So technically, Golokiya Sri Krishna prays Devchandra. So instead of Devchandraji offering his service to Golokiya Sri Krishna, Bal Mukundaji worships the divine form of Devchandraji in Sundarbha. And here Sundarsaji. Devchandraji, having the spirit of Sundarbai of Paramdham, who came to this world with the jewel of Syamaji, was actually the recipient of Golokiya Sri Krishna's prayers and services. So Bal Mukundaji said, I disappeared because I could not accept the services of Devchandraji. Now there are so many lessons to learn from this incident. We say, we claim, we believe that we are the same souls, the consorts of the Lord Supreme. We are the Sundarsats. Syamajina Angaho Sundarsat. How can we worship any other deities, any other demigods, and offer our service to any other than Aksharatit Sri Krishna? Because the question again is, can the deities, demigods, accept our services and favors, our prayers? Because they are actually the one who want a glimpse of us. कोटि ब्रह्मांड जाकी पलथे पैदा सो चाहे हमारा darshan, says Mahamati Prananath. The creator of infinite universes, Akshara Brahma, himself wants to have a glimpse of these consorts, and we are the consorts of Paramdham. The question is, just like Devchandraji's services could not be accepted by Golokiya Sri Krishna, to whom all the deities and demigods worship, Lord Brahmaji, Lord Vishnu, Lord Mahesha, all the goddesses worship Golokiya Sri Krishna. And Golokiya Sri Krishna offers prayers to Aksharati Sri Krishna. So here, Akshara Brahma, the creator of infinite universe, wants a glimpse of us. And if we offer our prayers to Lord Brahmaji or the goddesses or the demigods, would they be able to handle, would they be able to bear such a respect, such a prayer? Because it should be vice versa, right? So the teachings of Mahamati Prananath, the Vedic teachings, is that we worship the Aksharatit, we worship the Lord Supreme and Lord Supreme One. Now the question comes, we believe that we are the consorts of the Lord, but do we truly know that we are the consorts? Are we the consorts? Are we the beloveds of Aksharati Sri Krishna? Are we the ones having eternal relationship with Aksharati Sri Krishna? One of the participants was asking a question to me yesterday. If it is the case that there are only 12,000 souls in Paramdham, all the people in the world, rest of them are left out. Is that the case? That is not the case. Because when we go into our dream, for example, Sandarshadji, we sleep for 6 hours, 8 hours, how many hours? I do not really know how many hours you sleep. When I go to bed, I get to sleep about 6 hours. And in these 6 hours, I have dozens of dreams, if not hundreds. My spirit takes different identities, experiences different circumstances in each of these dreams. It is one spirit of mine that we call Surta that goes into a dream, has a body, invites all of the things and circumstances and people into that dream, experience something, and when it awakes to its reality, all of that becomes memory. Nothing returns in reality. The mother in my dream does not come back to reality. The circumstances, the forest, the jungle, the river that I see in my dream is not in reality existent. Right? So although the number seems small, 12,000, if you look at the book of Kalash, in the book of Kalash, Mahamati Prananath describes the features, the characteristics of Sundarsats, of the consorts of the Lord. If you look at that and compare that to our disposition, our devotion, our characteristics, it seems like 12,000 is a lot. 12,000 is a lot. That should not discourage us from our spiritual pursuits, because the Lord Supreme says, those who are meek, those who are humble, those for whom nothing matters but the Lord Supreme and the grace and His grace. I will always find, whether they are in Paramdham or not, to give eternal salvation. Let me come back to the question again. We said that we are the consorts of Lord Supreme. For that reason, the demigods and deities cannot accept our services and prayers. But do we truly know we are the consorts? Is another question. For that, I have this answer. Why do you think Raji Maharaj, Aksharati Sri Krishna, is giving you this opportunity to learn about him? Learn about the eternal relationship that you have with him. While the whole world is still looking for answers to basic questions about God, they are still thinking about whether God is omnipresent. They are unaware of when God is going to come and rescue them from this world full of misery. While the whole world is awaiting for the arrival of Buddha Kalki incarnation, Imam Mahdi, second coming of Christ, you have been illuminated by this divine understanding of Lord's name, Lord's form, Lord's leelas, and Lord's abode. Dear Sundarsaji, if you were not the consort of Lord Supreme, why would he reveal everything to you? Why would he unlock the door of Paramdham for you? Why would he unlock his heart for you? Why would he give you the treasures? Why would he give access to the treasure of Paramdham? It is because we are his and he is ours. We are eternally related to him. Isn't that true? You know how many people, how many thousands of people go on a pilgrimage to Makkah? How many people go to Jerusalem? How many people go to Haridwar, Kedarnath, Badrinath, and all those places to find God? Because they think that that is a way that God could be pleased. That is where they can experience the presence of God in their lives. Mahamati Prananath, through this transcendent knowledge, through this awakened consciousness, is guiding us to this very easy path, very clear path to eternal bliss. The question now, though, is Raji Maharaj is giving all this to us. He's giving us access to Paramdham, the treasure of Paramdham. Because if we were not related, he would not do that, right? I cannot come to you and ask for the PIN number of your debit card. I cannot come and ask for your bank account number, password to your online banking account, can I? It's because I'm not related to you that closely. But if your spouse asks you, your wife, your kids, your wife or your husband, they would have access to everything. Raji Maharaj is doing the same here. He's giving us the access to the treasure of Paramdham because we are his and he is ours. Although we may not realize, although we may not truly accept that relationship and embrace it, Raji Maharaj is doing all of that. Now the question is, but our devotion, our longing, the intensity of our prayers and pleas do not suggest that we belong to Paramdham. We do not have that longing to be one with God. Mahamati Prananath for that says, although it may not seem so, Vishwas karine daude zeha tartamanu phala leshe deha. Believe and you will get it. Believe that you are the consort of the Lord, and so shall you will be consoled. So what is the fruit of Tartam? What is the consequence of Tartam? Mahamati Prananaji says, Gara Dham ani Sri Krishna I Phal Sar Tanu Tartam. It is the eternal abode of Param Dham and the eternal union with Aksharati Sri Krishna. That is the fruit of Tartam. Dear Sundarsats. Now the question comes, so should we not worship any other deities? Shall we believe in this monotheistic practice? For that, we don't even need to look into the teachings of Tantra. The Vedic and Abrahamic religious traditions all talk about Ananya Bhakti, believing in one God and one God alone. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, verse number 66, Sri Krishna says, Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam saranam braja aham tva sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shusha. Sri Krishna says, abandon all varieties of dharmas and simply surrender unto me alone. Remember that word, alone. He says, simply surrender unto me alone, just me, but none else. Because I shall liberate you from all sinful reactions. Do not fear, says Sri Krishna. Ananya Bhakti is given the utmost significance in Vedic scriptures. Although those believing in Vedas worship multitudes of deities, demigods. Ananya Bhakti is total identification with the Beloved, the Lord Supreme, the exclusive devotion, undivided devotion to one God. Sri Krishna says, Ananya cheta satatam yomam smarati nitya saha tasyaham sulabha partha nitya yuktasya yogina. Oh Arjuna, for the yogis who always think of me with exclusive devotion, I am easily attainable because of their constant absorption in me. So the importance of exclusive devotion is found all across Vedic scriptures. Sri Krishna continues to say in Bhagavad Gita, having attained me, the great souls are no longer subject to the rebirth in this world, which is transient and full of misery. They won't have to return to this world full of misery because they have attained the highest perfection. Sri Krishna says, there are those who always think of me and engage in exclusive devotion to them, whose minds are always absorbed in me. I provide them what they lack and preserve what they already possess. Sri Krishna talks about the exclusive devotion. In Bhagavad Mahapurana, one of the most renowned scriptures of Hinduism, it is stated, Yatha taror mula nishechanena tripyanti taskanda bhujopashakha pranopaharache yathendriyanam tathaiva sarvan hanamachyutecha. By giving water to the root of a tree, one satisfies its branches, twigs, and leaves. And by supplying food to the stomach, one satisfied all the senses of the body. Similarly, by engaging in transcendental service of the Lord Supreme, one automatically satisfies all the demigods and all other living entities. Just giving you a practical example here. So every year we file taxes, right? And we file taxes to IRS if we are in the United States, which is Internal Revenue Service. So when we file taxes, we know how much we are about to pay. And when we pay, we do not care at all about how the tax that we pay is allocated. We don't care how much of it goes to the army. We don't care about how much of it goes to the executive branch. We do not care about how much of it goes to the construction of bridges, hospitals, and so on. We just pay and leave it for the government to decide where it wants to spend all that money. Sri Krishna says, come to me and establish the relationship with me. And when you do, all the demigods, all the deities will be automatically satisfied. You will, it is as if you have served all of them, because when you are paying your taxes, you are paying for roads, hospitals, and everywhere else. The budget is allocated, but you don't worry about it. Because if you would go to the army saying that, okay, I think this is how much I pay to you, and if you go to the Department of Roads, if you go to Department of Transportation, if you go to like local hospitals and say, okay, I think I pay $1 to you, then what happens? You are in a mess. So the idea is Ananya Bhakti, exclusive devotion to Sri Krishna, the transcendent being, the Lord Supreme. Finally, Padma Purana states that a true devotee should not expect salvation from any other deities than he or she exclusively worships. The devotee's prayer should be exclusive, undivided to the Lord Supreme. He or she should not worship, sing the Gloria, meditate upon, and receive the prasada, the sanctified offering of any other god than that of Lord Supreme. Ananya sarano nityam tathaivanasya manasa. Ananya sadhana tatvat sadanya prayojana. Nanyam pujaita devam nanamecha smarenyacha nacha pasyanna gayecha naiva nindita kadachana. Dear Sundarsaji. So is it that we worship one God and one God only? Should our devotion be exclusive to one God? Yes. According to the Vedic scriptures, that is what a true devotee should do. Because it is a spiritual journey. It is the journey of the soul, finding its source, trying to find that eternal relationship, establish that eternal relationship. So the source cannot be many. The soul cannot reach Vaikuntha and heaven at the same time. It cannot get to Paramdham and Vaikuntha at the same time. It has to be given a direction. So the source of soul cannot be many. Is Veda state, only through the devotion to the Lord Supreme, one attains moksha, one attains liberation. So the question is, why invest elsewhere? Yasmat mati toham akshara-dapi chottamaha atosmi loke vedecha pratita purushottama. Sri Krishna says in Gita chapter 15 verse number 18, I transcend the perishable world of matter and even the imperishable soul. Hence, I am celebrated in both Vedas and Smritis as the Supreme Divine Personality. So, the question we gotta ask ourselves is, once we are in the path of the Supreme Divine Personality, why go elsewhere? Why do we need to go and reach out to any other demigods and deities? Tomorrow, we'll dig deeper into it. Look into the references where we find Lord Supreme stated as the God Supreme, Uttamaha Purusha, as well as the change in Haridasi's demeanor towards Devchandraji following the darshana that he had of Mukundaji. And we'll continue our understanding on the pursuit of Devchandraji, the pursuit of God, the pursuit of answers to his questions, the pursuits of divine understanding. So I hoped in today's session you understand that if we believe ourselves as the consort of Lord Supreme Aksharatit Sri Krishna, then we should not invest our prayers, we should not invest ourselves in other deities and demigods. Because when we offer something to Lord Supreme, all the other demigods are automatically satisfied. Just like when we water a plant, then all the twigs, all the branches, all the leaves receive the nutrients. When we feed our stomach, we don't inject liquid from our veins. We do not put liquid in our eyes. We do not drink milk from our nose or our hands and legs. Or we can give numerous other such references. So when tax is paid, we care none, we care less about where it goes. We may care that the tax that we pay is properly used, but we don't care how much of it goes to the school districts, how much of it goes to building, constructing highways and bridges and roads. We don't care about how it is allocated. We just want it to be used properly. Similarly, once we are submitting ourselves to the Lord Supreme, when we find the path to the Supreme Divine Personality, all the gods and goddesses are already satisfied. Are already satisfied. So that is Ananya Bhakti. That is the reason why Bal Mukundaji disappeared, because Devchandraji is the consort of the Lord Supreme that Golokiya Sri Krishna himself worships. As such, he would not be able to receive the prayers, receive the favors of Devchandraji. Now, if we believe deep down that we are the consorts of the Lord Supreme, the question to ask ourselves is whether Goddess Saraswati, Goddess Durga, God Brahmaji would be able to receive our prayers. With this, I will end today's discourse.